Hello and welcome to a new video. So today we are going to focus on painting my hallway and my bedroom, because I've spent a lot of time working on the sewing room and the living room's already looking quite nice, but the hallway and the bedroom are still looking very undone. When we first moved in, the hallway was actually orange and pink, which I think is an okay color combination if you're an ice lolly. But for hallway, it just felt very overwhelming. There was a lot of color, especially when you then looked into the rooms. And obviously when we first moved in, all the rooms were very different colors that didn't really harmonize. So I actually already painted it, but the paint wasn't what I wanted. So I ordered a paint based on a sample and it arrived and it was completely different color. But I was just like, I just need to get rid of this color combination, so I painted it anyway. So currently it's a very cold beige, which isn't very inviting, so it's still not what I want. So the color I have in mind is Masquerade Light by Little Green, because Jack's been talking about getting a pink hallway for ages. He's got some clients who have a pink hallway in their big house in Danune, and I'll show you a picture of it here. It looks amazing, but also you have to keep in mind they have direct light in their hallway, whereas we don't have any direct light coming from anywhere, so our hallway is really dark. Even when it's bright outside, even when the sun is shining, the hallway is always really dark. So every color feels very cold in there. So we ended up going for a warmer pink tone to kind of get that feeling as well. On the other hand, the bedroom is very yellow. So we've got the lemony yellow on the walls, and then we've got a butter yellow on the ceiling, and it's just very yellow, and it's not really what I want to go to bed to or wake up in. I just like to paint it a color that's darker and moodier and just gives you that little cozy feeling that you need when you go to bed. So that's what we're gonna do, and I asked you recently to send me your questions. So as I'm gonna do the painting, I'm going to be answering your questions. So let's go and do some painting. To the person who said in my comments that I shouldn't be wearing slippers when I film, but rather real shoes, what do you make of this painting fit? So we're gonna start painting the hallway, and the daylight is already dwindling away because it's like 2 o'clock in Scotland. So I'm just gonna start working on this so that we get the entire area here done in this color, which I'm very excited about because this hallway has been looking not that great for ages. And while we do so, I'm going to answer your questions. So I thought, because we've got 2 rooms to paint, in here I'm going to answer your questions about the move and life in general, and then in the bedroom I'm going to talk about any sewing questions. But let's get our paint and supplies and things. So the first question is from Putinen on YouTube, and they asked, how long have you been living in Scotland? Was there any cultural shock after moving there? So I have lived in Scotland since 2018 with breaks. So that was when I first moved here, but then I had to go back to Germany for a little bit in 2019. There's cat hair everywhere. But I don't think there was like tons of cultural shock. So when I moved to America when I was 15 and went to school there, that was way more, but I felt like the UK isn't all that different from Germany. But it just feels like sometimes, how do I say this? People are just really polite all the time, and sometimes I get really scared of like leaving the house, and I'll be like, people will be mean about something, and then I realize actually everyone's just always really lovely here. And then Emily Smith 2784 on YouTube is asking, I'm curious about how the missives thing worked. Whenever I Google it, all the information I find says any offers in Scotland are 100% binding, and yet I see properties go to under offer or sold and then back on the market all the time. Quite frankly, I am honestly not that sure about that either. So I feel like when we purchased property, it was our mortgage advisor that dealt with most of the things, and then he suggested using a solicitor, and they dealt with the missives and everything, and they just sent over the missives that the seller wanted, and they said, yep, that is kind of Scottish standard, that's perfectly fine. And we were like, okay. But what I do know is that many times you can make an offer without actually having a mortgage in place. So maybe when someone puts in an offer and it gets accepted, and then they deal with getting the mortgage and everything, the offer just falls through because they never get a mortgage. So that's maybe why things come back on the market. So when we were looking at that house in Paisley that we quite liked, we were actually being told that, it's like the offer was accepted unless it falls through for the other people. So we were kind of having a little bit of hope that it might still fall through and that we might still get the house, but obviously that didn't happen because we're in this flat now. And I just want to say, I know you're going to jump to your keyboard to tell me to tape stuff instead of just freehanding things, but in Victorian houses, usually things aren't 90-degree angles. And there's wallpaper on every single wall that is very structured. So I tried taping things when I painted the living room because I just wanted to see whether it would make things easier, and it genuinely didn't, other than having to struggle to get the tape on the wall and pulling it off and realizing that lots of paint had gotten underneath it, then having to save everything by hand. So I've just come to the conclusion that with our walls it makes the most sense to just freehand everything. It's not perfect, but tape doesn't make it any better either. So yeah, just in case you were planning to tell me that, I know. But oh well. It's not perfect, but is it as good as it gets? Abigail Koken is asking, I don't know if you've shared this already on your channel, but do you have any siblings? As someone from a big family, I'm always curious to know. So I think, looking at me, I always find it quite obvious that I am an only child. Because I'm not very social and I'm not very good at having people around me. So I've grown up with just my parents and the cats, and I've always been very much of like a bedroom child. So just having my own space and my peace and quiet. And I've never been a big fan of people staying over, like my friends. I guess that brings me to another question that I saw on Instagram, jumping forth and back between YouTube and Instagram here. Autumn Nostalgia was asking, do you miss Germany? So that is a very, very clear no from me. I did not like living in Germany. I did not like the culture. I did not like the people and like the way, like I obviously like my friends and family, but in Germany there's very much a kind of like culture where if you're not someone close to someone, they're not going to be overly friendly to you, which is very different here in the UK. I never really liked German culture, so I'm very happy to not be part of it anymore. But I definitely miss my family and bread. And just having bakeries, because for some reason in the UK, like they have bakeries and then they're just kind of something like an off-brand Greggs and they sell sausage rolls, but it's really hard to find any proper sourdough, and like brötchen is just not possible to find here. So I just have to bake a lot of stuff myself. And then we've got Istarni asking on Instagram, what was it like moving to Glasgow from another country? It's basically you move to a place that you're told you speak the language, and then you arrive and everyone's speaking a different language. That's what moving to Glasgow is like. So even up to this day, I do not understand a heavy Glaswegian accent. Generally, people are super lovely and very friendly and helpful, but it's still not my favorite. Like, I would much rather live in a different city in Scotland, but that's just where we ended up. So, so even though like it's like you move to a different country all the way to the corner of Europe, but then they're still kind of stuck in a city you don't want to be in. And that leads me to another question. Schnursala says on Instagram, have you ever thought of living in Edinburgh? Yes, I have. Edinburgh is like the peak of Scottish cities, but it's also very expensive. So in 2020, I was offered a PhD position in Edinburgh, which I ended up not taking because that was kind of like the same time where they announced that like COVID was taking over and we were all dying. And then they were like, you've got a PhD in Edinburgh, why don't you move to Edinburgh? And we weren't allowed to buy groceries. So I was like, how am I meant to move to Edinburgh? So I was considering moving to Edinburgh, and I did like the idea. And my friend Lotte used to live in Edinburgh, so I spent quite some time there visiting her and spending time with her. But I just don't think that could have been affordable for us, especially with Jack being a barber and not making like tons of money either. So I think that was just never like a proper consideration, that just be like, let's stop working in Glasgow and move to Edinburgh. It was rather be moving back to Dundee or Perth, because that's where all of Jack's friends and family are. So that would make way more sense. But unless Herondale's barbershop can franchise and open up another barbershop in another city, and Jack just has people working in Glasgow for him to keep the shop running, I don't see us moving anywhere away from Glasgow, unfortunately. Okay, so now I need to get the big ladder out to reach the top of the walls. Oh no, I got paint on my microphone, great. So we are done with the top section around the door, over these doors and up here. So now we're back at painting from floor level, so I can talk to you guys again. Graveyard Crow is asking on Instagram, is Tally just a nickname or is it your full name? It's lovely. Thank you. My name is actually Chantal, which is not a very good name to have as a German person. I'm not sure if you guys will be aware of this, but Chantal is kind of like the Karen of my generation. And so it wasn't a good name to have. And I feel like early on, my parents must have realized this before I was even at the age of realizing it. So they started calling me Tally. That just kind of stuck. So then I went by Chantal for a while in my primary school and things, and people would try to call me Shanti as a nickname, which no, was not for me, no. I don't think I am a Shanti or a Chantal. So I guess you have to consider, like, Chantal sounds fine, but Chantal in German is really not a good name to have. I was always really embarrassed about my name, and it was always something I was really self-conscious about. Like when I was going towards 18, when I was still in Germany, I was very strongly considering changing my name legally, because back then it had such a weight on me. But once I moved to the UK and people actually, like, first of all, people are nice here, but then also they don't have that kind of association with the name. So whenever I say my name is Chantal, people are like, oh, that's a lovely name. And I'm like, really? Because I have kind of been traumatized because of it. But before we get into emotional, let's do some more painting, okay? Another question I got is from C. Senya, and they're asking, what are your plans for the kitchen? Actually, I might be working on a kitchen video currently. I feel like I'm just working on like 20 million different videos at the same time and not really progressing with any of them. Ideally, we originally wanted to move the kitchen over to one of the bedrooms and turn the kitchen back into a bedroom, just so we still have those 3 bedrooms, and one is just very small, which would be fine. But we've realized that there is no radiator in the current kitchen room. Behind the sink, there is no wall. There's no floor underneath the laminate. So it just feels like there are a lot of jobs that need to be done just to turn this kitchen back into an actual room. Also, the one wall is completely tiled, would have to be replastered. So we're almost wondering whether it's too expensive to move the kitchen, not in the sense of like paying for the kitchen to be moved, but paying for this room to be turned back into a bedroom. So we haven't really decided. It was originally the plan to turn the current sewing room into the kitchen because it's got the nice views to the back. It's got the pantry, so it would have been a really nice kitchen, and we kind of already envisioned everything. But I'm just not sure we can turn the kitchen room back into a functional bedroom without it being a major project. So we might just keep the kitchen where it is, at least for now anyways, because it was never like the plan to do this anytime soon. But I obviously am not a big fan of the color choices of the kitchen. So that is what I'm currently working on, because even if we keep the kitchen where it is, we do want to eventually rip it out and just redo everything, because the kitchen is quite yucky and just not very functional. I mean, not functional, but just like everything could be planned a little bit better and more logically, like there being space for a fridge. So I think the plan is I will paint the kitchen, I will paint the tiles, I will paint the cabinets, and it might not work, but it's fine because we're planning to redo it anyways. In the meantime, once the kitchen isn't horrendous anymore, we can think about what we actually want to do with the kitchen, whether we want to move it after all, or whether we're actually really comfortable having 3 big bedrooms. Because I've always dreamt of having a kitchen that you can sit in, because that's how I grew up, and I feel like being German, our main room to be is the kitchen. At least, yeah, I think maybe like other Germans, is it the same for you guys? I would love to have a sit-in kitchen. That is like my big dream, but I'm not sure it's doable. Unless you guys watch my videos and like and subscribe and make sure we get to 20 million views for this to pay for the kitchen renovation. Just kidding. We are done. I am honestly feeling this so much. I absolutely love the color. It was totally worth repainting everything and waiting all the time for getting the perfect color. I'm really happy with how it turned out. Still has to dry, and it's gonna get a little bit lighter, and then I need to see what it looks like in daylight, obviously, because it's very dark in here now. The only thing that might still need doing is the ceiling. So as you can tell, the ceiling is yellow. So that is not an ideal color combination. I think I'm gonna let the color sit for a few days and I'll see how I feel about it and how Jack feels about it. But honestly, I'm very much feeling it. I love this. And if we both agree, I might just go ahead and paint the ceiling the same color, because even though I'm not a huge fan of color drenching, I do like a color coordinated ceiling. And it's not a big room, so even if I was to repaint this one day, I could just paint it a different color then. But I'm not gonna commit just now, because if I don't like it or Jack comes home and he's like, it's pink! I should say he wanted it pink, so it would be a waste to paint the ceiling because it's not gonna be as fun as painting a normal wall. I think I'm gonna do that just a different day. So we shall reconvene in a different room on a different day with more questions. Welcome to my bedroom. So the hallway is done and I will show you what it looks like in the reveal. But for now, we're going to focus on this room first. The problem is I don't actually have a vision for the bedroom. So currently it's kind of lemony yellow on the walls, and then we've got the picture rail, and above it it's buttery yellow. So again, a lot of yellow, and I don't really like it. But also there are a lot of things that kind of still need doing that aren't really good, and I don't even know where to start. The bedroom is quite big compared to our old bedroom, and it almost feels like there's too much space because I don't really know how to fill it. So we've got the massive wardrobe here, which is my wardrobe, as Jack is using the big wardrobe in his dressing room. And I'm very happy because you guys know that I didn't used to have a big wardrobe, so I would always sell things very quickly because I couldn't store them. So this is amazing. Got these mirror doors, which aren't really pretty, but they kind of like are functional, and I'm hoping to eventually replace them, but again, this isn't like an urgent thing I need to do immediately. On the other hand, we've got a little bookshelf on the side here, which is something that we traditionally find in tenement flats. However, they replaced it, so it's not original. It is in the original space, but what they've done is they've taken the frame of it, so it looks absolutely horrendous. It's just the wallpaper is reaching all the way to like the edge, but then coming off and wrinkling, and it really doesn't look good. So this is something I need to fix immediately because I hate the way it looks. So I'm just going to order a little trim and fit it around. Nothing fancy, nothing special, just to make do. But generally speaking, my idea for this renovation is I'm going to just try to make things better. Because I feel like not every renovation can be like the sewing room renovation, where I had a massive vision and I managed to get everything done at once and then the room was finished. In this case, I think I'm just going to try to make it a little bit better without actually trying to achieve the final product. I'm also not going to touch the buttery yellow yet because I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do with the ceiling. I might end up painting the entire walls red with the bits that are over the picture rails as well. Or I might end up painting the ceiling red, but then doing the little bit above the skirting board in a different color. So I haven't quite decided, but I think I'm just going to start by making the main bits of the walls the color that I want, and then seeing how it feels and where we go. But still, I'm going to take you along because you guys seem to be liking renovation content, and I'm going to answer some more of your questions, in this case the sewing ones. So let's change into our painting gear. So this is my little trial paint area, and I'm definitely going to use this red, which is Aras from Little Green. As you know, I am a sucker for Little Green. I just love that color so much, so this is the one I'm going to go for. But before we get started, let's answer another question. Nina's Cozy Corner is asking, what are your tips when someone wants to sew but has no experience? That is a very good question that I do get quite frequently. I'd say most modern patterns are actually really good for giving you a lot of explanations for what you need to do and what kind of stitches you need to do. So I think if you just downloaded a modern pattern, so I keep pointing people towards Stitch Maiden because they're quite good for having good instructions. As long as you somewhat understand how to thread a sewing machine, you should be quite good to go. So I think if you just work with a modern pattern and you do it until you gain some confidence, that is the easiest way of getting into sewing. And with that, we're going to jump straight into painting. know how you sometimes can get away with just doing one coat of paint? That day is definitely not today. So I actually think I've just put the color on and the texture of the wallpaper is becoming so prominent, and I'm really hoping that's going to dry away. But it doesn't look good. It definitely doesn't look good, and it's very spotty. So I am actually worried that I don't have enough paint to even do 2 coats of the entire room, even though I'm just doing below the picture rail. I guess I'll just see how far I get, because we're also in between Christmas and New Year's just now, so places aren't really open. So maybe let's answer another question while we're at it. Abby Stoofap, maybe. Do you tailor your ready-to-wear clothes? What aspects make you buy if you plan to alter it? Yes, I alter most of my clothes. So I feel like if I get skirts, I will always put in just like a little dart into the waistband just to make them fit nicely, because with skirts, they have to fit tightly on the waist. So I find it quite easy to alter skirts. Dresses, it's a little bit more difficult. So there have been dresses, especially when you do collaborations, you kind of have to shoot them and there's often time restraints. So if you get something and it kind of fits, you will make it work. So there have been times when I just put like a big dart all the way down the back seam just to make things fit, and then I take it out again and sell it because it didn't actually fit me at all. I wouldn't go out of my way to properly alter a dress unless it's like the one dress I really want, because I feel like that often, like I just have very small shoulders, so often things are just generally way too big on me. So I think these things I would probably just sell rather than keep them. So it's mainly waistbands of trousers and skirts that I will alter. Did buy a few t-shirts over the years that I kind of wear just with my pajamas, and I did take them in at the waist as well, but that's kind of like the main alterations I do, just making things actually fit on the waist. And it's really hard to get things that actually will fit naturally. So I just usually make semi-permanent alterations. So I'll just put in a little dart, and then if I ever gain weight or I don't want to wear a corset anymore, I can just take it out. Or if I want to sell things, just so it's not a weird specialized size. Shannon Kathleen T is asking, what part of the sewing process is your favorite? I do really enjoy the planning, so I think I spend a lot of time just thinking about my sewing projects, which has always been a bit of a problem of mine. So I'm just like in my head thinking about what seams I have to sew, and then generally what things I'm planning to do with my sewing work. And often I'd be working the entire week. So then the weekend comes and I've been thinking about a project for like 5 days, and I'm just like, I just need to get this out of my head. So often I'm very quick about my sewing because I so obsess about projects that it just feels like I need to get them done. I just don't want to think about them anymore. I do enjoy the planning, but it can get a little bit obsessive. But I do enjoy the actual sewing process because everything has already been worked out in my head about which way I'm going to do things. It's just following a protocol that I'm very familiar with. So I can just like shut off my mind and I don't have to think about things anymore, and I really enjoy that. I think many people try to rely on things like exercise to get their mind to quiet down every once in a while, and for me that's definitely sewing, and really enjoy that aspect of it. But what I don't enjoy is the texture of this wall, but I'm just gonna finish it for now and then maybe eat something and stare at it while it dries and to see whether it gets any better. As I'm continuing my painting, I am now almost halfway through with the side wall here, and it's not looking any better now that it has dried over there, but I feel like generally speaking it looks better. So like the room already looks way cozier. I sent a picture of this to my friend and she was like, wow, this is dark. I was like, yeah, it was just way too bright in here. It was not cozy at all, so I'm looking forward to it being darker. But yeah, it definitely needs a second coat. It's not drying any better. But as we're continuing with our first coat here, I thought I would answer some more questions. So Vilka Took 666 is asking, daily wear undergarments with skirts and dresses, practical insights to modern historical wear. This is something I talked about a little bit in my corset video, but I basically wear a bullet bra with the what Katie did demi corset most days, and I will always wear what I'm actually planning to paint just now. I always wear petticoats with my skirts because I don't like the way skirts can get stuck to your tights and legs if you don't wear a petticoat, and usually I just feel like it gives your dress and your skirt a better swoosh if there's a petticoat underneath. And then I tend to just wear tights, so I'm not very much into stockings. I tried for a little bit to wear stockings, but it just didn't really work for me. So I'm just going with modern tights, usually knit tights, and then kind of layering everything up to keep myself warm because it is very cold in Scotland, more so indoors than it is outdoors. And then let's go back and do some more questions from YouTube. Tracy Welsh 5837 is asking, I'm pretty good at putting outfits together, choosing shoes though. I love the 1940s and 70s, getting into cottagecore, hobbity clothes and medieval, but shoes man ga. Any tips please? Most of my shoes I get from a brand called Memory. They're a Danish brand and I absolutely love them. These are the shoes I will just wear to work every day because they're really comfy, and because they have a UK warehouse, you don't have to pay tons of import duty when you get them. But I have a lot of people asking me how long these kind of shoes last me, because often people think that if you spend hundreds of pounds on shoes, they should last you a lifetime. If you treat them really well and you only wear them for certain occasions, might be the case. But I feel like because I wear my shoes basically every day, no matter what the weather is, because if I was to not wear them if it's raining, I could just never wear them living in Scotland. Usually a pair of shoes lasts me about a year if I wear them quite a bit. I'll have to get them resoled at least once or twice in the time because I guess I have like a funny walk, so I always walk the side of my heel off. And then after a year they're just falling apart because it's constantly raining in Scotland and pavements are underwater. So it's just hard to keep your shoes in good condition. So Memory is one of the brands I would recommend looking at, and American Duchess. They've got a European warehouse now as well, but they're mainly based in America. Then I've got shoes from Joe Barefoot, which I actually really like, but they're custom made shoes, so it's a bit pricey. I had my wedding boots made from them, and then because I liked them so much, I got another pair made that was a bit darker in color so I could wear them more frequently. And these ones actually lasted me a bit longer than my other shoes. They were eventually falling apart a little bit as well, just because of the weather here. I have Oak Tree Farm shoes, which are really nice. But I highly recommend all of them. They're all very good quality, very nice. But if you live in Scotland, I would recommend getting your soles done quickly because they mainly have leather soles, and that's just not very practical if it's always raining because we'll just be slipping around. And then we're doing one more question before I focus on this and get the wall finished. Metaland Thread 2000 asks, what was the first sewing project that you were really proud of? I guess my first proper sewing project was a duck egg blue Edwardian ensemble, but I wouldn't say that I was really proud of it. But also sewing for me came quite natural, so I didn't really start out by making like bed sheets or anything like that, or like pillowcases. I just kind of went in and immediately did Edwardian ensembles. The first thing I made that I was properly proud of was probably my corset that I made, that I showed in my corset video, so like the light green one that I made, because that fit me so well and I was actually surprised that I was able to make something like this. And then I was able to wear it daily because it just fits so well. And that really gave me a lot of confidence because I always thought you had to be a really, really good seamstress to be able to make corsets, and that I'd probably never be able to do it. But I was maybe sewing for like half a year when I made that corset. So that was a surprise, and that was something I was really amazed by and really proud of. So I guess that one qualifies. On we go with the painting. Something I do just not understand is how a patchy application of red already looks significantly better than the properly applied yellow. There's just something about yellow that is just not good. But the daylight is dwindling, so I think I'm just going to continue on painting without you guys, by myself, put on some nice movies, maybe a little bit of expedition music, and just continue with the first coat, which just needs to be done behind the bed now. And then maybe if everything's dry over there, I can start with the second coat, so that we can get this bedroom finished. But I'm very glad we managed to do this because it's already looking so much better. And I hope you have enjoyed me answering your questions. Apologies to everyone whose questions I didn't answer. I appreciate you all sending me your questions. It was just quite a bit of questions, so I couldn't answer them all. But we were productive together and the flat is coming along. I'll just continue painting for now, and you guys get to see the reveal in a moment of the finished hallway and the finished bedroom. And hopefully you'll like it. is me again. So let's talk about how I feel about the rooms. I think the hallway is really nice. I'm very happy with how it turned out. I'm glad I also did the ceiling. It all feels kind of very pulled together. And when I got that lamp, which was originally meant to be in the bedroom, but when it arrived, I was just like, this is the most stunning thing I've ever owned, and I want everyone to see it, and I want myself to see it all the time. So I just put it in the hallway because I wanted to walk past it every day. So that really pulled everything together. I still think we could hang some more pictures and just a few little details, but generally speaking, I'm really happy with how the hallway is. The bedroom, on the other hand, the red has made such a huge difference, but there is still so very much to be done. I'm sure you've noticed in the reveal that all of the skirting boards still look horrendous, because basically what happened is when the guys did the floors, there was some beading on the skirting boards and they took it off and ripped layers and layers of paint off with it. The problem is the skirting boards were painted with oil paint, which means I have to go over with oil paint. And I hate working with oil paint. It's just so smelly, it gives me headaches, and I just really don't like it. And it's been absolutely freezing in Scotland, so I was planning to do this before filming the reveal, but there was just no way I could leave a window open for hours at a time. Especially considering even when we have the heating on, the flat doesn't go much warmer than 15 degrees because it's quite big and there are single glazed windows in some of the rooms and the ceilings are very high. So I was just like, I don't want it to go down to like 10 degrees. Also, I don't think the paint would ever dry if that was the case. So we're just gonna leave this to future Tally to sort out when it gets a little bit warmer. And then the little frame I built around the bookshelf obviously then also needs painting because it's primed. So it is white, but it's not very well painted. So it should be the same color as the skirting board. So when I do that, I'll do that as well. Then we still have the buttery yellow on the ceiling and on the top of the walls. It looks fine with the red, but it definitely isn't a color I would have chosen. It's not in your face yellow, but it does feel a little bit too yellow to be acceptable. So I'll maybe paint that again in the future. I don't have any paint left of the red paint, so we'll see. It's not urgent, but it needs to be eventually tackled. So generally speaking, I'm really happy with all the progress we've made in this video. It just feels like the flat is really slowly becoming our home, and we're getting rid of all of the colors that are eyesores, and everything's just feeling really pulled together. So let me know what you thought about this format of video of me just chatting to you guys while painting. And I hope you all had a lovely start into your new year and that returning to work has been kind to you guys. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in my next video. And yeah, that's it. So bye bye. See you soon.